the world of accounting is changing very quickly in terms of technology that's out there. So we see it as a really exciting time where we can get a lot of information talking to each other to create simplicity and clarity, and like Najit said, really good financial information in your systems. So Melanie is one of the people we kind of have brought in to really make sure we're operating with best practices. So from Intuit's perspective, she's a fantastic trainer for the Lower Mainland and knows all the ins and outs of QuickBooks Online, which is what we use. She's got 25 years of experience, CPA, tons of audit experience at the board level, and yeah, she's fantastic. So just wanted to introduce her and know that she's a fantastic resource for QuickBooks world.
Thank you, Chris. But can't get my computer to actually. Hang on a second. Last time I had to. Oh wait. I guess I just have to be patient. Here we go. Just thinking. Here we go. How is everyone doing this afternoon? You've all been like super quiet, listening attentively. Is that like a large enough resolution? You can see that? Okay. Okay. So before I get started, I just want to kind of get a little bit of a sense of who all is here. So who's from a not-for-profit? Who's here from a not-for-profit? Great, that's awesome. And so the other people then are who else is in the audience? From accounting firms, I'm guessing, or yeah, who else is here from? Wait, who else put? Yeah. Nope. And so nobody ever wants to say anything. Right, yeah, okay. So, okay, that's good. So from the people that are here from not-for-profits, are you using QBO? Is this something new? What are you guys using for your accounting? QBO. You are using QBO? Yeah.
New to QBO.
New to QBO? Okay. Sage. Wanted to switch. Sage desktop or Sage online? Desktop, yeah. Okay. Okay, that's good to know because it makes a difference, right? So, what are you guys using? Or do you? Not sure. Not sure. No. Okay. Yeah, no, so that's good to know. There's, there are quite a few different options out there. I mean, everything from spreadsheets to boxes, little shoe boxes, right? And spreadsheets. I think I've seen almost everything in my years as an accountant and auditor, and right up to even, enterprise level software. So thank you to Chris and Omar and Enkel and Denny, who's asked me to come out and do a little bit of training for you guys. I really love working with not-for-profits. I also sit on a board of a not-for-profit and have of different ones over the years, because I think it's just there's something really special about people that get together to make something happen that they feel really strongly about. So it makes you feel good, right? I think there's besides being an accountant, I'm a counselor, so there's something about bringing meaning into your life that helps keep you happy. So that's a little bit more about me, but it's important. So what is QuickBooks Online? You guys know it's made by Intuit. One of the things that I really love about Intuit is one of their key values is powering prosperity throughout the world, and they do that through supporting small businesses, but they also have initiatives that are very generous in nature. So I think it's important when you're going to partner with somebody to provide your accounting services and your accounting software that you're in alignment with their values as well, because the type of service that they provide for you is going to be important, right? Like when you pick up the phone to ask for support, because besides your pro advisor and your accountant and your bookkeeper, you can call QuickBooks or Intuit and ask them to help you. Has anybody had to do that? No? I ask you guys a lot of questions too, because I like the feedback. Has nobody's had to do that with QuickBooks? Yeah. You actually, You call support? Yeah. You can do that. So it's a resource that there's like a number. If you click on, I'll show you later, but you can click on the little gear and you can actually call them, and they're quite helpful. So if your bookkeeper or accountant isn't available, and that's free. So something you can do. Besides QuickBooks, they also make Turbotax and Mint. Has anybody heard of Mint? It's not what you eat in this case. Yeah. And Profile, which is like a tax software for corporate taxes and personal taxes. They have an international team. They have like in the UK. You can even go. Somebody recently, one of the people that's in Toronto went to the QuickBooks Connect conference over in London, so that was kind of cool. And they encourage their people to do that, so that's another neat thing. There's pro advisors, like I'm a QuickBooks pro advisor as well as a QuickBooks Online pro advisor. And then there's bookkeepers that just know about QuickBooks and QuickBooks Online and support it, and accountants as well. So those are the different types of people that work with the software. Does that make sense? Okay. And we're going to have time for questions afterwards, but if there's something like, I have to know it right now, you can always stick your hand up and I'll be happy to answer it. So through the years of both auditing, not-for-profits, being on a board, volunteering, being involved in different ways, I've both experienced and seen different things that you guys might also have experienced in a not-for-profit. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that I think that are painful that QuickBooks Online might help with. And then you can tell me, well, I'll give you the chance to tell me what are some things that you are having a hard time with that we could even maybe come up with some answers for as well. Okay. Geographical constraints. Like boards are becoming even more diverse, right? Like here in the Lower Mainland, the board that I'm on, I live out in Coquitlam. All the rest of the board members live out in Vancouver. So we need where there's two signing authorities on the checks. Do you think that we can get together to sign checks? I'm sorry, like, no, it just doesn't happen, right? So that's a geographical constraint. It takes like a month for us to get together to sign checks. And there are people that get really unhappy about that because they're waiting for their money. There's time constraints. Did I spell that right? Constraints. So, not an English teacher, an accountant. We're all busy. Like we're working full time, we're volunteering, we have kids maybe, we have animals. I have like 2 dogs and 2 cats and, kids and volunteering, and let's try to have a social life, like forget it. So trying to find time to actually fit in to volunteer or, like I've talked to people, and one of the hardest positions to actually fill, I think, is treasurer in a not-for-profit. People find out I'm an accountant, like I try to even not tell them. You're on a board, or I find out they're with a not-for-profit, and they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a counselor. And I can say that, and it's not a lie. Because as soon as you say you're an accountant, they're like, oh, we need a treasurer. I know you do. And then I can't say no, right? But how many boards can you sit on, right? And it's hard, so that also leads into it's hard to find trained volunteers. Because accounting and bookkeeping is actually not something you can leave to just anybody. Because, as Najid was saying, you have the CRA to contend with. If you're doing things improperly, especially if you're a registered charity, you could issue receipts for a donation, and if you do it incorrectly, you can actually lose your registered charity status. So you need to make sure that you're doing those things properly. So these are the pain points that we have, like some quite significant pain points, and I think that with QBO and with Keela partnering together, you can actually address these pain points in quite a significant way that you could make them almost go away. And there are a couple of other apps involved that I actually don't represent them, but I've come to use them, and I think they're pretty fantastic. But in today's digital world, it makes it pretty easy to run the not-for-profits in a way that is manageable. And then we can actually help, like, do what we want to do, which is help people. So, Brad Smith, has anybody seen the movie We Are Marshall? Yeah. Yay, somebody at the back of the room. Anybody else? No? Highly recommend watching this movie because, so Brad Smith, who's the CEO of Intuit in the States, is from Marshall, or from the town, is it Marshall? No, is that the name of the town? I don't know if it's the name of the town. Anyway, irrelevant. It's Marshall University, whatever the town is. He's from this town, and he was actually, there was an event that happened. Watch the movie. If you can Google Brad Smith and watch some videos, this man is highly inspirational. But one of the quotes that he said is, "But you can never get any more time." So be really thoughtful about where is the highest impact place for you to spend your time. Treasure that. Be really clear about where you're going to spend your time. And this was said in an interview, I think it was Forbes or Business Insider, some kind of business magazine, because he's very successful at what he does for Intuit. And this is, you know, what Najid was talking about. Like, where are we going to spend our time? And how can we use technology to leverage it so that you can spend your time doing what you're meant to do, which is helping people. So, with that, let's have a demo and actually use QBO to do some of those things for you. Uh-oh, I closed it. That's okay though. Look it. Okay, so I'm just gonna log in. So this is your basic, if you guys have already been using, those of you using QBO, you recognize your login screen. If you've never used it, you would end up signing up. So when it's that kind of resolution, it makes it really small in here, and I'm getting old. I need glasses. See, right down here, there's a new to Intuit. You can just click create an account, and it's actually that simple. So when you convince your boss to switch from Sage, you can just be like, oh look, I'm going to go create an account. Or you could go create a trial account and then tell them how fantastic it is. So all you really need to do is go to qbo.intuit.com. All of the other stuff in there is really just about the fact that I've bookmarked my particular login. So I'm just going to log in. It's your email address and password. This is like, you know, live, so if we have bloopers, just like this, because I'm connected to a network that doesn't recognize the speed. This is what happens in real life, right? So you'll see, like, when you connect to a new network. So the other great thing about QuickBooks Online is that geographically you can go anywhere. So like, let's say you have to go on a business trip and somebody says, oh, but I need that check. You can say, oh, no problem. Let me log into my QuickBooks Online and do that check for you. I'm going to disconnect this for a second. Privacy issues. I have a training account set up, but it's in my regular account with all of my other clients. So how have you guys been finding the QuickBooks Online? Any challenges? Any specific challenges?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. It's just new to the QuickBooks, so.
Yeah. Are you enjoying it, or
Really?
not really?
Yeah, because I haven't really used it
Yeah.
right at the moment.
Okay. So, thank you for being patient. So when you log in, this is what your dashboard looks like. I made my own little not-for-profit, if wishes were reality. So, there's some things that, like demo or beta features down here in this QuickBooks Lab that you can turn on, and one of them is this QuickBooks Assistant. Here, up in the top right. Close this. So you can actually chat with your data, but that's a beta feature. We won't go into that today. So this is your dashboard. So basically, we've logged in. Denny was like, we're going to go through this right from beginning to end. So people who have a little bit of experience, bear with me on this because it might be a bit of a repetition for you. And so I don't forget, I'm going to pull up my list of what we're going to go over. So how to log in and key features. So we're logged in. We've got a dashboard. One of the things I really love about QuickBooks Online is that it's really intuitive. So Intuit's, another one of their key core mandates is called Design for Delight. They really love their end user. So they want things to be super easy for you, the end user, to do. So you can see, if you look down the left-hand side here, they've got this whole menu. And it's going to look a little bit different for you than it does for me because I have an accountant's version. So it might look a little bit different, right? But you've got My Accountant, you would have that there, and that's where you can talk to your accountant. So, like, let's say you want to upload something in there for your accountant, you can click on it, it'll tell you who your accountant is. You can, if your accountant's asked something of you, like maybe they want a document, a bank statement, they'll send a request to you, and for the accountants in the room, you can do that for your clients. Let's say you're doing an audit and you need a document. You can put the request through here. And then the shared documents that have been passed back and forth between the client, and it's completely safe and secure. So, and then you have messages back and forth there. Your accounting tab is where your chart of accounts and your reconciliations sit. So when you're going to do a bank reconciliation, this is where you would go. And then again, I mean, I'm not going to go through each menu item because they're pretty self-explanatory. I think, unless there's one that somebody in particular wants to see or explore, but we'll go through them as we do a little bit more of the demo. But just to orient you, left-hand side is your menu, right? The other place that you can access the different types of transactions is by this little plus button up here in the top. Is everybody following my little mouse? The top? If you click this plus button, you want to think about this is where you can quickly and easily access your different types of transactions. So I want to create an invoice. I want to create a sales receipt. Or let's say I want to create a check or an expense. I'm going to click my plus button. So again, depending on the version of QuickBooks Online you have, because there are 3 versions, right? We have an Easy Start, we have a Plus, we have an Essentials. The types of transactions that are going to show up in here are going to be different for you. This version is like the whole shebang, so you might not see all of the transaction or all of the options in your version, right? So if you see something here that doesn't show up for you, it's because you have a lower version than I do, just in case you're wondering. If you want to print checks that you've entered, that's also here in this menu. If you want to access your preferences, it's this little flower or gear, whichever one you want to call it. It was actually an Intuit rep, a man, who said it was a flower. And now I get heck every time I call it a flower, but I prefer to think of it as a flower. So this is where you'll find your preferences, your user settings, chart of accounts, lists. QuickBooks is based on lists, your chart of accounts, your products, that type of thing. You can import and export data here. Not really transactions, so don't get too excited. It's not where you would import transactions, but you could, let's say you had a customer or a donor list that you wanted to import, so you're switching over, you could import a donor list. You can export your data so as sort of a backup. We like backups. You want to do that on a regular basis for sure. So you can export that, or you can export your lists, like maybe you want to send out a mailing, although you would probably do that through Keela. Right, guys?
Yes.
But you can do a backup here, and that's a fairly new feature, so not everybody knows about that. I kind of laugh about these, like take a peek under the hood. See your chart of accounts? So sometimes you have to kind of go past those funny little messages just to see what you've got here. So this is, it comes with like a very basic i.e. no chart of accounts. So you have to set it up. And I've deliberately left it pretty blank just so that we could go through the process of adding a few things. This was just a shell account that I had. Okay, how is that so far? We have a lot of talking. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Yes, what is the backup format? Once I backup my records, what do I get?
It goes to an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
For some organizations, like we don't need some of those accounts. Is there a way to delete the pre-populated ones? I was trying on the weekend.
Oh, some of them you can,
Some of them.
which you probably found.
Yeah. Some of them you can't.
Some of them are accounts that are used for functionality that's built into the QuickBooks, so it won't let you delete it, which is probably, you probably got an error message like that, right? Do you remember which account in particular you were trying to delete?
It was like cost of goods sold. Something
Right,
that's not
yeah.
useful for.
So when you tried to delete it, so, and again, I have the accountant's version, so accountants are allowed to do things that other people aren't. So if you have an accountant in your file, you could ask them to delete it for you.
She's the accountant.
I just not.
Oh. So if you have a QBOA, it's free to sign up for a QBOA profile.
Okay.
Totally free. So I would do that. I would sign up for a QBOA profile and then add yourself as the accountant. Just make sure like you don't have any, it should not let you delete it if you have transactions in there, but obviously, just be careful about that. The integrity of your data. I generally don't encourage deleting accounts or anything like that. But as you saw, it actually didn't say that the account was deleted, it just made it inactive. Yeah.
So for QBOA, sorry, that's something that I just set up on my own.
Yes. Yeah. We can talk about that after too. That's a different conversation, but it is just on Intuit's website. No, any other questions? We're plugging along pretty nicely here, so. Okay, so that's the basic overview of how the main look of QuickBooks is. Let's talk about the fun stuff. Let's talk about getting money. That's always my favorite part, getting money. So if we go to sales, and I know in the US version of QuickBooks, Christina from Keela was over showing me the integration yesterday, and she was able to change this customers to donors, which I was like, oh, that's so exciting. But I wasn't able to find that option in the accounts and settings here in the Canadian version of QuickBooks Online. I'm just going to double check. But it is not here. So you're kind of stuck for now with the languaging of sales and customers and invoices. So let's suppose that for now you're because only memberships and donations right now are pushing over from Keela, right? So you're using Keela to do your memberships and your donations, but let's say you've gotten a grant from someone. And we also are using the project capabilities. Do you guys have the projects turned on in your QBO? Do you know? It's like, yeah. I love the projects feature because you can find out how much money you have left in your grants. I've got one set up already here, gaming funds grants. But let's add a new one. So who's somebody you might get money from for a grant? Somebody throw out a funding agency.
Vancouver Foundation.
Vancouver Foundation. And you can just add, like you can see I didn't have the Vancouver Foundation in there, so it's really as simple as just typing it in. And I can click add. There's so many different ways to do it. So it really is going to be about working with it and finding out what works for you. But I'm kind of old-fashioned, like I've been doing bookkeeping since it was DOS and Bedford, Simply Counting Bedford. So I'm a keyboard person, so I just hit enter and it adds it, and I tab out. But you can use your mouse to add, like to click on the add, whatever works for you. That's the neat thing about it, right? And then you can put notes. You can say, 2018-2019 grant. And one of the things that I know about grants is that often you need to know what's not spent at the end of a funding year because you have to put it into deferred funds, right? So the great thing about this project module is that it will tell you what is not spent at the end of the year, because you can allocate the revenue, the initial grant, and then you can allocate all the expenses to it. And then you can run a report, and at the end of the year, just do a journal entry to allocate the deferred funds, which is going to make your auditor happy. And then that will cost less, hopefully. I hate to take away revenue from auditors, but they'll make it up in other ways. Maybe there'll be more not-for-profits. There'll be time for people to do more volunteering. Because do you think we would actually just not do something with our free time? No. We're just going to find other things to do. Okay, right? Come on. No? Maybe that's just me. So now we've got a new project. Now we need to, what would we do next? Anyone got a guess?
The grant.
Yeah. So we're going to add to the project. So you can see now we've got these little buttons here, and it's very similar in every screen. Like every screen is kind of the same, but the functionality is slightly different. Whether we're receiving money or we're spending money, there's going to be this little green button here, and there's going to be a drop-down arrow. So we're going to invoice. And we can start typing in, or we can click the drop down. And we're gonna choose the Vancouver Foundation. Actually, I wanna make sure it goes into that project. Add to project, invoice. And then you can actually send it right from here by email right to somebody at the Vancouver Foundation, for example. You can choose to send it later, so you can batch send them, whichever you choose. Again, it's about your workflow, so you can build those out as you go. I'm just going to take that off for now, so I'm not going to put an email in there. You put your invoice date, a due date. You can turn these options off in here. I've left them on here just to show you the full capability, but you can actually turn these off in the options so if you don't need them, you don't have to have them turned on early. What if I don't want to have to tab through all of these every time? And this down here is this one that says purchase order is actually a custom field that I just put in there again to show you that you can there's 3 custom fields that you can put in there and you can call them whatever you want. So maybe there's like a grant number, or I don't, do you guys have like any sort of custom numbers that you would use? No? Oh. Sometimes with the government they have custom like contract numbers that you might need to reference. Okay, so then you have a product or service set up on the back end. This product or service is actually linked to a category or an account that is going to tell it where to record the revenue to. But when you go to do it, it's just all set up. So you type in my 2018-2019 grant revenue. I'm going to get $30,000. Again, there's the green button with the drop-down arrows, so you can pick whichever option you want. I'm actually just going to click Save. And so you see, once I've saved it, it actually gives me the option to receive a payment, because there's more than one step here, because we've sent the invoice, but we actually need to get the money in our bank, right? So now they've paid us. They actually paid us on, let's say, the 13th of April. They paid us by check. We deposited it into our checking account. And now I'm going to save and close. Pretty straightforward. So when I click project profitability, oh, it didn't go. Uh-oh. Let's see. I don't think it actually went into this project. Let's see. That's what happens, hey? Live demos. There we go. So, see this, I actually planned this way. I planned to make a mistake. But having said that, like, look at, it didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, and I was like, oh look, I'm just going to close that so I can show you. I went and I looked at my report and I'm like, oh, that should say $30,000 of revenue on my report. Why doesn't it? Right?
I know why. I think I know why. Because the dates you set up, the money isn't actually being deposited until the 13th.
Ah, that's actually a good point. I mean, in this case,
You wouldn't have the money right now because
Yeah.
it's not being deposited until the
Yeah.
13th.
that's very true. I mean, in this case, it's actually because the customer that I picked wasn't the project. But from this point, you can actually go look and see, like, why isn't it showing up, right? But you're right, like, I mean, that definitely could be a reason. So up here in this search bar, it gives you all the recent transactions. So I can literally, I'm like, what was the transaction? And I kind of knew there was an issue with it when I was doing it, but I just thought, oh, it'll work. So I just went and clicked on the invoice and it pulls it up. And it really is as simple as clicking on it, fixing it, and then save and close. And it actually keeps a full audit trail. I know when QuickBooks first came out, there was a big problem where there actually wasn't a full audit trail, but they do have a full audit trail now, and have for a long time. So, and there's our revenue. So let's say we didn't spend any of the money, we could run this report at the end of the year, and this would be our deferred revenue for this project, right? We could print this for the auditor, boom, like that's pretty simple, right? Now, let's say we're gonna spend some money. Well, actually, let's talk about where we can save time, because probably right now you're like, yeah, big deal, it's really not, this isn't the magic, right? Like, this is like any other software so far. The real magic is when you can connect this up to your bank account and save time on actually recording things. So I have pretend uploaded some transactions from a bank account. So when you're in your dashboard, you log in, this is where it comes to. You can see over here on the right, you've got a bank account. So imagine what it would be like if you could just automatically have all your transactions there and you just had to review them and click on them to add them into your ledger. Bless you. So now all of a sudden you've done away with the data entry. And you not only have that, but you also have a link to all of the actual source documents right within your QuickBooks. So you could just click on it. That takes an additional app, but that something like Receipt Bank, which you could write down and use. That would be a good one. So you click on your bank. If you have this connected to your bank, it's going to pull in all the transactions that have gone through your bank account. Kind of like you've got your bank statement sitting in front of you, right? Does that make sense? So here we've got some money we spent, got some wages. This would be the description that is typically on your bank statement, is what it comes through in here. Now, QuickBooks gets smarter and smarter. So the more times it sees a transaction come through your bank with a particular description, it will remember what that description was, and it will apply the same category to it the next time it sees it, right? So for this, now I don't have wages again. I'm just going to show you, now I'm just going to click Add Wages as an account. Payroll, save and close. So everything is right here. Now, let's say that these wages, I wanted to actually allocate to that grant because the money should actually be spent out of the grant. I just have to click on Customer and Vancouver Foundation Grant and then click Add. Now, when I click Add, it's going to do two things in this case. It's going to add it to my bank account as a transaction. Until I've actually clicked the Add button, it's just sitting here in this kind of like purgatory of transactions. It's sitting there, it's not actually gone anywhere. It's just a potential transaction. So once you click Add though, it actually records it. It's now a credit to your bank account and a debit to your expense, your whatever. But it's also, in this case, applied it to the expense against the project. Make sense? Yeah.
So for that wage, can you split it among two different projects?
Yes. Well, two projects. You can split. I actually have never split. Yes, you can. Look there. I never get that complicated in my transactions. So here, if you click the split button here, and then you would just on each line, right? So, yeah. So you would just merrily continue down your list of transactions. So here, this is supplies. I haven't added any accounts, so I'm not going to go through. Now here on the revenue side, I actually had gone in and added a donation, and you can see like it knows that I've already recorded a revenue, and so it's like, oh look, we actually found a record in your bank account. And we think that this deposit here matches to the transaction that you've recorded already. So you click on it and it's like, oh look, this was a sales receipt for Susie Homemaker on January 1st. I'm like, okay, this was a donation on January 1st. I think that that's the right one. So I'm just going to click match. And then that's it. And it's recorded. So now the matching button on the other ones has gone away because there was only one transaction in my bank account that was like that. And now I can just add the other ones. So you can see like how quickly you can actually record things. Even if you don't have an account already, you can just add it right on the fly. You can add right from your bank feed. And then now I want to reconcile my bank account, right? So I'm in here, I've added everything. I'm going to click on go to account history. This is my actual bank ledger in accounting terms. We use ledger. Is Majid still here? This is my bank ledger, my check register, whichever terminology you want to use. And then they've made it nice and handy. Here's the reconcile button right up here. And I'm going to do this once a month, right? So when you're actually connected live to your bank account, this bank balance will actually be the balance that has been downloaded from your bank account. Okay? So we're going to pretend that this says $29,300. Because I just imported this from a spreadsheet, so it doesn't say that. I'm going to click on Reconcile an Account. Let's do this. It gives you lots of help, so if you're not sure what you're doing, it kind of prompts you along. Oops. Go back to January. Oh. No. That's because I included that $30,000. There we go. So if you've done everything right, and haven't done your math wrong because it's Friday afternoon, you're going to get this beautiful check mark with the $0 difference. And didn't do the deposit on the wrong date, like was pointed out, right? So this is what will happen, because you're going to have a downloaded bank balance, and all of these amounts are going to be pre-cleared because you're going to be adding them right from your bank statement. So, have any of you actually set this up before? And done this? No? Yeah. Like, how amazing, like, I'm telling you, I mean, I've been reconciling bank accounts for, like, a long time. And every time I get this, like, little green button, and you open it up, and it's just like, has anybody had to reconcile a bank account when it's taken them hours and hours and hours to reconcile a bank account manually? Yeah. It actually doesn't take any longer. I mean, I know we're doing a demo here, but it's like that. Now, it's not like that every time. I'm not going to say it never, doesn't work. But probably 9 times out of 10, it's that easy. Because you're adding it right from the bank feed. And you're matching it as it comes in, right? So that's your bank reconciliation, and that is how that works. Does anybody have any questions about that? Yeah.
When you are applying the wages
Yep.
to the Vancouver Foundation, what happens when you check the billable, or do you not check the billable box?
I didn't check the billable because in this case we're not billing the expenses. This is just applying it in the sense to the project so that it reduces the amount of grant. But you could, if you did that, like if you wanted to bill the expenses to a customer, you could do that.
Okay, but you don't have to do that.
No.
Check it.
No.
To apply to that fund.
No. No. What happens if you check mark the billable, it actually holds it in, we can go do it. But to wrap up the bank reconciliation, what you do basically then is finish now because your balance is 0 and you've got the nice bright green check mark and you get your success, you've reconciled, you can view and print your report and you're done for the month. Okay. So now we go back to our projects, it's month or year end, and we're like, okay, I wanna know what my deferred revenue is, so I'm gonna go to my project report. And I've got $29,000 in my deferred revenue. I was hoping for more excitement.
I think we'd be more excited if it was real money.
Probably, yeah, probably. I get excited about really crazy things too.
Quick question.
That's what happens when you do too much auditing. Yes?
QuickBooks Online, does all versions have the project in it?
No. I think you need the essentials, you need the highest version, yeah. But if you have the QBOA,
Yeah.
or you go through your accountant, you can get the wholesale billing and it's half price. Yeah, so if you get your QuickBooks through your accountant, they can get wholesale billing. So like if you get your QBO through Enkel, they have a wholesale account, it would be 50% off. So we had a question about, we'll go back to our banking, because now let's say we have more expenses. So now we've got these supplies, and let's say we're gonna actually bill this to a client. Doesn't matter, we'll just add that. So let's say I both want to show this as a reduction of the grant and I want to make it billable. So now when it's billable, if you go to sales and you go to do an invoice, so you see here, this is your sales dashboard. Can you see this here, unbilled activity? That's your expense that you clicked as billable. So it holds it, again, it doesn't record it in, it records it as an expense, but then it kind of holds it in this place as an unbilled expense, so that it just remembers the next time you go to pull up a or to go to do an invoice for the Vancouver Foundation, it's gonna say, hey, you actually have this billable expense that you wanted to charge to your client. So it'll remember that. Yeah, and if you don't click the billable, then it's not gonna do anything. It'll just charge it against the project. Are there any other questions right now? Yeah.
Is there different functionality for departments, or would you use projects as departments?
There's a different functionality for departments. Yeah, there's something called classes, so that's the same thing as departments. So yeah, literally it's the same thing that is in here through the gear and all lists. I don't think I have it turned on in here. So if you had departments and you wanted to set that up, you would go to your gear and your settings and advanced, track classes. So you have both classes and locations. So like let's say you had a not-for-profit that had a location in Vancouver and Toronto, but you also had departments like admin and operations that you wanted to track. You could do both of those things and then use the projects to track your grants that you needed to know the deferred revenue on. So you can get quite a bit of functionality out of the program. Yeah.
I don't know if you plan on touching on this later, but are you able to issue tax receipts from a charity point of view out of QuickBooks?
You could. You probably could. I mean, you would use Keela for that. Because, so in terms of the tax receipts, and we've got some auditors in the room, so it's been a while since I've had to do this, and also the Keela people probably will be able to answer this a little bit better than me, but you have to have your registered charity number, right? The date, the address. What are the other requirements?
The website as well.
The website, and there's something about the number, right? Because you have to be really careful, have some sort of security over the number. right? And they have to be signed, that type of thing,
Also, track
so.
if there was any advantages, or if it was a full donation, or a partial donation with partial advantages, which I don't know how you would necessarily
Yeah,
show.
I mean, I think the problem, I mean, I think you might be able to do it somehow, like you probably could get something to print, but my question would be whether the proper security measures could be put in, like around the numbering, that type of thing. I don't know if your auditor would be happy about it. I think the auditor might be unhappy with the system in terms of its security. And that's the kind of thing that you don't want to, that's like definitely one of the places that you really don't want to mess around with. But you could, like, if you had a system that was used in conjunction with it, you can print almost any kind of customized form out of here. Like if you use the labs that I was talking about, QuickBooks Labs, because you would be talking about a sales receipt, I think. I mean, just kind of off the cuff, right? Like, I don't know. There's import style here. If you turn that on, you can import customized styles for invoices and sales receipts. So you could customize it to be however you wanted. So as long as you really ensured that you were following the rules, then you could probably do something. Yeah. But I would, if I were you, I would talk to your accountant about that. Okay. So we've gone over expenses and projects. You can also do payroll in here. We're not going to cover payroll today. Is anybody registered for GST? Yeah. So you can also track your GST. Pretty basic. Now you guys are getting all your GST back, or just a portion, or?
We get half of that.
Yeah. So you actually could, this is how you set it up. Basically, again, there's like a nice little wizard that you walk through.
Does it actually do the GST for nonprofits, and it's a variance between nonprofits and for-profits?
This is what I'm just gonna show you. Like you actually, you set it up, and then because you only get back the 50%, right? You actually could just add a new rate. I'm not gonna actually show you how to do it in here, but you could actually set up a rate of 50% of the 5%. So you set up a rate of 2.5%, and then just record it right away. And then you have your sales tax, and you file reports right in here. So it covers that as well. Now let's talk about reports, because that was the other big thing I think that we talked about wanting to cover today. Now you guys is this what your reporting center looks like, or no? Is it the old one? No?
Doesn't look like that. So.
No? Okay. So this is the new report center. I'll change it back. It's being rolled out, like they're implementing it. It's the easier to navigate reports. This is probably what it looks like for you then, right? Okay, I bet profit and loss is everybody's favorite report, right? Or is it the balance sheet, the cash? What? No? What's your favorite report?
P&Ls.
The P&L, yeah. The cash? We've got different ones over here. So you've got recommended reports. You've got all reports. But I like to actually go up here and, like you just saw, go into QuickBooks Labs, turn on easier to navigate reports, and you will have this. And then you have your favorites, and you have a search bar, so you can actually look for a report if you don't know where it is. But you can put your favorites up here, so all you literally have to do is put a star. Like, let's say you like your profit and loss comparison. Now it's going to show up right at the top. So again, you're saving time, right? It's about saving time. So you've got your business overviews where you put your balance, have your balance sheet and your profit and loss. You've got who owes you money, which we always like. Sales and customer reports, so this is the contact information and sales reports. What you owe, so your accounts payables. Sales tax. It's just a lot, it makes a lot more sense, right? Like, it's organized in a way that's a little bit more logical. And then payroll down at the bottom. It's always hard with the reporting to go through. And does anybody have any custom reports that they save?